You're watching Goal.com's mid-season review, focusing on the biggest clubs in Europe. And up for discussion now is Arsenal. Greg, you're pretty close to the club. You follow it closely. What's your assessment of the season so far and where they need to improve?
Well, it feels like Arsenal have reached boiling point now at this stage of the season. They haven't won a trophy since 2005. They're already looking like top four will be a challenge to get into the Champions League, which is the absolute priority. They're out of the League Cup. I can't see them winning a trophy this season. The fans are really ready to revolt. They've been booed off the pitch. There've been protests. It just feels like it's all going wrong. And Arsene Wenger's facing an absolutely crucial 6 months, but especially the January transfer window, because usually he doesn't like putting his hand in his pocket at all, let alone in January. But that's going to have to change this year.
OK, Pete, he needs players. Greg said that. We all know that. Where does he need those players?
Well, I think when you look at the most recent transfer windows, he's done business both early and late, and he seems to have got it wrong on every count. And I think that if you look around the team, they basically need strengthening still everywhere, because the players that he's brought in have been inferior, they've been substandard. So I think in central defence, they still need a partner for Thomas Vermaelen. Up front, I don't think Olivier Giroud has been the signing that they hoped he would be. And also, they may have to safeguard against the loss of Theo Walcott potentially in the summer, so they could be looking to strengthen along the flanks too.
He's going to spend money, Pete. I think he's going to spend up to 40 million in January.
I'm not sure that's enough. 40 million is enough. I mean, when you look at some of the players that they've sold already over the last 2 or 3 seasons, Van Persie, Song, Nasri, Clichy, he's sold to rivals. OK, he sold some of them abroad. But even 40 million isn't enough, I don't think, to get them anywhere near challenging for the title next season even.
Yeah, I think the real problem for Arsenal is they've got to play in the Champions League, especially as they're still repaying the loan for the stadium.
And that's not a given either at the moment, is it? I mean, to get into the Champions League spots next year.
That's why he's going to spend this money. I think they want Adrian, the Atletico Madrid striker, Wilfried Zaha, the Crystal Palace winger, is another player they're going to go for. But you look at it now, and Zaha's wanted by Man City, by Liverpool, by Man United. Why do you even sign for Arsenal at the moment?
Well, the thing is, though, he's got to buy players that are better than what he's got as well, or ready to come in and make an impact. Now, Zaha's playing in the Championship. Fantastic talent, looks a great player, but is he ready to come in and make that impact in the Premier League? I mean, he's got Theo Walcott there who, he's already playing for England at that level. Is Zaha better than him?
He's not going to win them titles. He's not going to get them in the top Champions League this year.
Another problem that Wenger's had in the transfer market is the players that he's lost, the ones that he's brought in subsequently have been of an inferior standard. So you think he's lost Nasri and Fabregas, and he's replaced them with people, I suppose, like Gervinho and Mikel Arteta. He sold Robin van Persie, and Olivier Giroud is the replacement, and Podolski also. And I think that he's lost his eye for a transfer, where once upon a time he was signing players like Patrick Vieira and Emmanuel Petit, and these were really high-class players coming in. He just doesn't have that ability anymore, and I don't know if he is to be trusted with 40 million.
And a big problem for Arsenal is they have so many average players on big wages. Marouane Chamakh is on £60,000 a week, and he's an absolutely terrible footballer, and he's been an awful signing.
It's not that easy for a manager either to get rid of these players, because who wants them? If they've failed at Arsenal, how's he going to get them trying to sell them to another club on those wages as well? It's going to be difficult for him then to try and get those out the door, to make room for the new signings coming in. That's
the problem, that's the deadwood. Players like Arsene and Chamakh, he would sell them in a heartbeat, but there isn't the interest.
But what about Arsene Wenger? We're discussing his team and his players, but what about the manager himself, under a lot of pressure? Greg, you speak to the fans quite a lot. Matt, you also speak to people in the business.
I think sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. I was part of a Charlton team that was under Alan Kirbishley. And, he spent a lot of time at the football club, got us into the Premier League, kept us there for many years. Then he went and, subsequently, the following season, we were relegated. So sometimes be careful what you wish for. Having said that, it's now a long time without a trophy. People are getting restless. Whether he's going to last the distance, he'll last to the end of the season. Beyond that, I'm not overly sure.
I think this is last season. I think the momentum's moved to such an extent, it's so negative that Arsenal need a change. He's been there since 1996. And it feels like it's time for change. And Wenger probably knows that. But he is obsessed with his legacy as well. He won't leave Arsenal in the lurch. Certainly won't leave mid-season. If they can get someone like Pep Guardiola, it's a long shot, but if they can get someone like Pep Guardiola, Wenger would step aside. But either way, it feels like they need a change now.
basically Arsene Wenger has invented what is the modern Arsenal. It's a completely different club now than it was before he joined. You look at the stadium that they're playing in, the standard of players that they've had recently, the success that they've had under Wenger recently. But I do think that he's reached the end of his natural tenure at Arsenal, and I think it's time for Wenger to hand custody of this club over to somebody new.
And that's not to say that the fans don't respect everything Wenger's done for Arsenal, and they'll be eternally grateful. But it's time for a change, and just like at Man United, that Ferguson's going to step aside at some point in the near future, and the big question is how you move on when that happens.
Matt, have the last word on Arsenal. Sum it up for us, what they've done so far this season, what they need to do, and the future for Wenger.
Well, they've underachieved this season so far. Of course, they're in the Champions League knockout stages, which is something that other clubs in England hadn't achieved. But that isn't good enough, I don't think. I think they have to finish in the top 4. Whether they do that, I'm not sure. And as for Arsene Wenger, I think he's got to the end of the season. Beyond that, I don't think he'll be there.
OK, thanks, gents. So that was Arsenal. For more news and analysis on them and all matters football, make sure you keep up to date with goal.com.